All right, welcome back to Wrestling Retold and Relived with Richie Mars. I, of course, am your host, Richie Mars. And thank you for spending your time with me for the next hour or so. We are still in the month of February, the month of romance that I bestowed upon it. And this storyline takes us back all the way to the year 2012, the year where the Mayan calendar was supposed to tell us that the world is doomed and we are no longer to be on this earth, but thankfully, I'm still here to talk to you about lovely wrestling storylines and topics as I've been doing these past couple of weeks. And this storyline involves, well, a controversial figure presently and possibly at the time, along with another name that's well respected and well regarded within many circles of the professional wrestling industry, because I'm talking about the love triangle, the love square. This storyline covers WWE Champion CM Punk, Daniel Bryan, Kane, and AJ Lee. So how do we get here? How did we get here? Let's go back to our Wayback Machine, and we're in 2012. Let's see what each of these opponents, each of these participants have been involved with to get us where we are today. So I'm going to play a little catch-up with you, so everyone gets a Cliff Note version of the storyline that we're about to go and how the participants became what they are today. So back in 2011, Daniel Bryan won the Money in the Bank, and he has been pegged at the time, I do remember seeing this, as the first person to cash in the Money in the Bank and lose his opportunity. Fortunately, that didn't happen. He did cash in his Money in the Bank on the Big Show at tables, ladders, and chairs, and won the World Heavyweight Championship. And he went from nerdy good guy to insufferable heel bad guy vegan. That was his character for a while. He was the world's toughest vegan. A little bit after that, Daniel Bryan had to stop being vegan because he developed a soy intolerance, which, as he put it, was the least manly way to stop being a vegan, because he had to switch to vegan due to health reasons, and then he had to stop being a vegan due to health reasons. It's just a little funny kerfuffle that happened. Daniel Bryan lost the World Heavyweight Championship to Sheamus in 18 seconds, famously, at WrestleMania 28. And he's coming off the back end of losing to Sheamus again in a 2 out of 3 falls match at Extreme Rules 2012. Now, at the time, he was in a relationship in the previous November to AJ Lee. So AJ and Daniel Bryan were an item. And I actually have something right here about the origins of that storyline. Former WWE writer Kevin Eck said the Bryan Danielson, Daniel Bryan, and AJ Lee romance was actually a sample of a storyline he pitched to get his job with WWE. The original idea was to have Bryan and AJ be attracted to one another, but too shy to make a move, so cool guy John Morrison would coach them, Love Guru style. Eventually, Bryan, Morrison, and AJ would become a trio, but Bryan would start to suspect that AJ actually liked Morrison more than him, and the group would be torn apart by jealousy. Unfortunately, this version of the story didn't happen because Morrison was on his way out of the WWE, but X stuck to his guns with his Bryan and AJ romance idea. So it's pretty cool that a under-the-radar story like this kind of catapulted and spiraled upwards into a main event story picture, because at the time, Daniel Bryan was not really a main character on the SmackDown show. He was more of the supporting player. He was still kind of in that I'm a good wrestler character. But at this time, Daniel Bryan didn't have a character. He was just Daniel Bryan. That's it. Which is very hard for an aspect of the audience to latch onto. Daniel Bryan's pairing with AJ allowed him to not only transition from nerdy good guy who happens to be world champion to insufferable bad guy vegan who bullies his girlfriend around. Now let's see what AJ Lee had to say about being paired with Daniel Bryan at the time. And this is from her memoir, Crazy is My Superpower, that came out in 2017. I was paired with Daniel Bryan, a wrestler who was also undersized, atypical for the sport, kinda geeky, but champion for the fans who saw themselves in him. We were two underdogs who weren't expected to amount to much in the world of giants. One writer, the creator of our pairing, Kevin Eck, lovingly referred to us as his Revenge of the Nerds storyline. Though not much was expected of either of us, due to our ability to fit the mold, we started to fall into opportunities. Several roster injuries and contract negotiations led our little duo picking up the slack. Though we started as an undercard story, we would end up thrust into the spotlight. I find it fascinating when stories like this kind of come to light. I'm always interested in the behind the scenes stuff, not from the dirt sheet perspective, but from the wrestler perspective, and how pitches and storylines were thought of as just, we're going to put you on the show just to kind of, for lack of a better term, fill up time, but now it's a major part of the show because, one, it's catching on so well. Two, there are injuries that are happening. I believe Mark Henry was having an ankle injury at that time, and he was World Heavyweight Champion. And Daniel Bryan, with that Money in the Bank briefcase, allowed him to cash in and catapult this story with him and AJ into the main event scene and start that pairing of mistreatment and just turning Daniel Bryan into this heelish, devilish person that he could bully, because Daniel Bryan was one of the smallest guys on the roster at that time. He's about 5'9", 5'10", I would like to say. And when you have him being a bad guy bullying this woman who is 5'2", 5'3", 5'4", and really the only person on the roster that's shorter than him, it's going to make him seem like a real jerk. They portrayed it in a very good way of making him seem like the ultimate pipsqueak bad guy, to actually give him some more character besides being that evil vegan. So after his loss at WrestleMania 28, Daniel Bryan breaks up with AJ, yells at her, berates her, saying she's the reason he lost the World Heavyweight Championship in 18 seconds. And that kind of starts the spiral towards that AJ Lee character. And I'll give AJ a lot of credit here. This was at a time where the women's division, or the Divas division as it was called, didn't get a lot of focus. From a 2-hour show, it's lucky that they were featured 5 to 10 minutes. And this was at a point where they were just there to be eye candy for the viewing audience and not really be a part of any storyline. If there were only 2 women that were kind of featured on at a month's time. It was the champion and the challenger, and sometimes it will move on to the next month, but more often than not, it's going to be a rotating other woman just to justify that they have all these women in the division, but not putting any focus necessarily on them. And I'm glad we're at a point in time where all that has changed. Now, women are being more prominently featured to show off talents and their abilities. And now we weave this storyline into Over the Limit, where CM Punk is defending his WWE Championship against Daniel Bryan after Daniel Bryan won a Beat the Clock challenge on Raw. And the build-up of the match was pretty much, these two have a history on the independent level. Now they're in WWE, fighting for the biggest prize in the business. And this is before the WWE Network was a thing. So I remember I didn't order the pay-per-view, but I did order, I did buy the match on iTunes. And I would just watch that match over and over again because it was a really good, fun match. If you like technical wrestling, if you like holds being exchanged, if you like different submissions being brought out, if you like strikes. And that's the story I wanted. That's the story I got. And it was one of the matches I would watch consistently throughout my fandom. The original storyline plan, I guess, or one of the pitches that was confirmed by AJ in her memoir, was that this was supposed to kind of be a swerve. That Daniel Bryan breaking up with AJ was a big swerve by the both of them, so the champion, being CM Punk, would be led into a false sense of security by AJ, causing Daniel Bryan to win the WWE Championship, and Daniel Bryan and AJ being an evil heel couple until Daniel Bryan would later drop the WWE Championship to The Rock at the Royal Rumble. Another thing that leads credence that this story was legit is that CM Punk, in that infamous Art of Wrestling interview, stated that Vince McMahon said that The Rock wants to work a bad guy, and CM Punk's options were either turn heel or he's going to drop the title eventually to Daniel Bryan. Obviously, Punk took the former, and then we got the Punk Rock matches, but that's a story for another time. So the ending of the match is Daniel Bryan locking in the yes lock and cranking it back, and he cranks it back so much that Punk reverses it, puts Bryan in a pinning predicament. The referee counts to 3, and after the bell, Punk is tapping. Now, Daniel Bryan thinks he won because he felt Punk tapping. But the referee goes over, raises Punk's hand, and confirms that Punk won because Daniel Bryan was pinned before Punk can tap. Daniel Bryan does not accept this and wants another match for CM Punk's WWE Championship. However, this is when the fourth party comes involved. The monster Kane. Now, many old school fans know who Kane is, Undertaker's brother, debuted at Bad Blood 97, ripped open the door off the hinges in Hell in a Cell, and he's been a constant fixture in WWE ever since then. Kane recently came back with his new mask, and it is definitely my least favorite iterations of Kane, because that mask looks like a fruit roll-up just was slapped onto his face. But that was Kane at this point where he was trying to get people to embrace the hate. Try to get John Cena to embrace the hate, try to get Randy Orton to embrace the hate. It didn't work. But Kane actually played a fixture in the lead up to Over the Limit. Daniel Bryan and CM Punk kind of tricked Kane into beating the other opponent up. Like, for example, Daniel Bryan hit Kane with a chair on the back, left the evidence so Punk would grab the chair, but Kane would think that CM Punk hit him in the back, would beat him up and chokeslam him, and then vice versa would happen. CM Punk and Daniel Bryan kind of put him in there in that situation, trying to get him for their own benefit, but Kane also holds a pinfall victory over CM Punk and Daniel Bryan. So he has a legitimate contendership towards the WWE Championship. After all this is announced, AJ is now smitten by Punk. The backstage promo was AJ complimenting Punk that she really liked how he beat up Daniel Bryan. And Punk said, this whole thing is making you look kind of nuts with you beating up your friends and just being obsessive over the breakup of Daniel Bryan. AJ starts crying. Punk doesn't really know what to do. He's looking around. He's trying to see if anyone can help him out here, trying to console AJ, and he's like, everything's going to be fine. Everything's going to be fine. And he tells her to stop crying, and right as he says that, AJ looks up. She stops crying. Punk kind of smirks, and he says, you know what? I kind of dig crazy chicks. Famous last words. AJ will start walking towards the ring during CM Punk's matches. One of the main things during the storyline that really got repetitive as I was watching was the amount of times that CM Punk and Daniel Bryan would share the ring with each other. The brand split was over in Raw and SmackDown. And that means you get to see the storyline play out on both shows, with Raw being the one that kind of had more stuff happen. SmackDown was kind of like an after show of Raw, and it was just, it was a lot. And during the storyline that happened from May all the way to mid-July, 8 weeks straight, pretty much, CM Punk and Daniel Bryan, for those 8 some odd weeks, would at least be in a match once every 1 of 8 weeks, and that got really repetitive. Now that Kane's gotten involved, AJ's infatuation with Kane starts to develop, because we find out that Raw general manager John Laurinaitis schedules a tag match with CM Punk and AJ against Daniel Bryan and Kane, and CM Punk is being emphatic with, hey, I'll do the work, I'm not going to tag you in, this is just Johnny Ace trying to screw with me, it's all going to be fine. During the match, AJ tags in, and she's in the ring with Kane, and the announcers are playing it up like Kane is a crazy, he's a monster, he's unhinged, who knows what he can do with AJ. But AJ smiles, skips around him a couple of times, it's like a very unsettling horror movie, jumps into his arms, and lands a big smooch onto Kane, and that kind of distracts him. I'm not going to say kind of, it did distract him, leading to CM Punk, Daniel Bryan to finish the rest of the match. And now Kane is spin, I guess, with AJ now. So now we have these 3 guys, very different personalities. You have the ex-boyfriend, you have the weird guy, and then you have the other weird guy, the weird tall guy. And now everything is revolving around AJ's finger. And they're playing it up like AJ loves the attention. She loves the attention from all these guys because she never got this attention previously. Because, like Daniel Bryan, when she started out, she was a nerd. And as we all know in every media, nerds don't get girls. But I know for a fact that is a lie. I've seen nerds nowadays, and that is just not true. Now, AJ is presenting this as kind of a disturbed individual who loves the attention, but that wasn't the initial idea that the WWE writers had in mind. Going back to her memoir, this is what she had to say. Some writers had pitched my character would become the crazy ex-girlfriend. At first, that sounded intriguing, as I was having fun being the vengeful ex-girlfriend, until I found out what exactly that entailed. The plan was for my quote-unquote crazy to be a point of levity in the show. A series of goofy skits in which this nutter revenge kissed a leprechaun and danced with dinosaurs from outer space. I am not exaggerating, that was an actual plan. So AJ actually suggested that they take it into a darker direction. But unfortunately, WWE didn't really see it that way at the time, and they wrote her off TV for a little bit. But then, once Daniel Bryan became in contention for the WWE Championship, they thought it would be a good red herring, so they moved forward with her idea. All for the better, I think, because I don't think I've seen a single soul request on a wrestling show that someone revenge kiss a leprechaun and dance with a dinosaur from outer space. That sounds like a Nickelodeon show to me. A very sweet Nickelodeon show that should probably be in production already as I'm saying these words. During these weeks, we're building up to No Way Out, the triple threat match for the WWE Championship. So it's CM Punk defending against Daniel Bryan and Kane. And leading up to that match, AJ is the central focus. She is the main character in this storyline. The announcers are playing it up like AJ will be the deciding factor. She switches on a dime on who she likes. One moment she might like Punk, the next moment she might like Daniel Bryan, the next moment she might like Kane. And AJ's reasoning for liking each of the competitors is that Daniel Bryan was her first love, and you never forget your first love. The story with Kane is that she looks at Kane and looks into his eyes, and he might portray this big monster figure, but deep inside, he has a heart. And her reasoning for liking Punk is basically he's the coolest guy she's ever met. Which is valid. You know, you're covered in tattoos, you're the WWE champion, you're gonna be pretty cool. Not gonna lie. So the match at No Way Out happens, and is definitely one of the triple threat matches of all time. There are some WWE title defenses or title defenses in general where you feel like there's no way the title can change hands at this time. That's what it kind of felt like to me back then and watching it back. CM Punk was just on a roll with popularity. Daniel Bryan was still coming out. And Kane was the reliable veteran that you could put in there and make the other participants look good. The finish of the match, AJ is running down. She gets on the apron. Punk pushes Kane. Kane hits the ropes, knocks AJ off the apron. Kane looks concerned. Punk then puts Kane up in the go-to-sleep position, hits the go-to-sleep. 1, 2, 3. Punk retains the title. After the match, Kane looks down at AJ, carries her off to the back, and then we see over Kane's shoulder AJ looking at the ring, smiling that CM Punk is the WWE champion, hinting that this was all part of her plan to have Punk retain the WWE Championship. So the next night, AJ comes cosplaying as Kane. Kane gets distracted, leading to CM Punk picking up a win over Daniel Bryan with his partner Sheamus. So a lot of head games being played by AJ, in that we don't know where she stands. She is a total time bomb of emotion that you're not sure whether she's going to flip on a dime, and it's so refreshing to have a woman be a main character in a WWE Championship storyline. However, I do think the WWE Championship took a backseat in this story, which I usually don't like in championship stories, because the WWE Championship should be the holy grail. It should be the top prize. And having AJ kind of overshadow that, and the relationship between all the characters kind of overshadows the importance of the WWE Championship, kind of looking back on it. So now Kane gets written off of the storyline. Backstage, he talks to AJ, and he says he's felt things that he's never felt before when he's around her. However, he's a monster, and even he finds her incredibly unstable. And then he says it's been fun, but he's out of here, which writes Kane off the AJ train storyline. AJ begins crying, and then all of a sudden she throws a fit of laughter, indeed showing us that she has lost her marbles. And I don't think she's getting them back anytime soon, quite frankly. So now we're back to a love triangle with CM Punk and Daniel Bryan and AJ in the middle. They have a rematch announced at Money in the Bank. And another wrench is thrown in because now AJ will be the special guest referee. Personally, I like this twist. It's still a soap opera in wrestling, and this throws that wrench into the plan, so to speak. So, really asking, whose side is she on? Now, during this, the evil vegan Daniel Bryan says he's changed his ways when it comes to AJ, and he forgot how truly special she was in his life before everything got so complicated. Not at all trying to win her over as the referee in her match. Meanwhile, CM Punk, even though he has a buddying relationship with AJ at this point, he sees what we're all seeing, in that she is very unstable, very hot and cold, and very confused, and is trying to get her the help she needs to process all these emotions. And then Daniel Bryan is accusing Punk of being a gaslighter. He didn't use those words, but that's essentially what he's saying. Punk is just trying to talk directly to AJ, saying, hey, we should probably get you some help. AJ is still cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, and is going around telling divas that she knows how to get a man's attention, no matter what. And during one of the matches, featuring CM Punk and Bryan, AJ comes out and is skipping around the ring, but Punk and Bryan don't give her any attention. They're focused on the match, obviously. They want to win. And AJ's disheartened because no one's paying her any attention. So she goes under the ring and grabs a table, sets up the table, and starts to climb the top rope, teasing that she's going to jump through the table to get some attention around here. Daniel Bryan rolls out of the ring, and he's in front of the table. He says, "No, don't jump, AJ. Don't jump." Punk meets her on the top rope and says, "You don't need to do this. It's fine. We could talk about it. Just don't do anything crazy." Her response to this is to kiss Punk right on the lips. Punk is stunned. He's confused. She smiles and then shoves Punk off the top rope, crashing into Daniel Bryan, and both of them go through a table. She then uses the yes motion to end the show. So the next week, CM Punk and AJ are in the ring together, and Punk wants to get to the bottom of this. He wants to get AJ some help because she needs it, and AJ's response is that she proposes to Punk in the middle of the ring, and it features Punk's face, which is very reminiscent of the Vince McMahon ear pull from 2001. It is over the top and amazing. So as AJ is on her knee proposing to Punk, you hear Daniel Bryan screaming, "No, I will not let this happen, because when I woke up today, I was hit by inspiration and an epiphany even, and that I love AJ, and I feel like it's best for me to do this out here." And then Daniel Bryan proposes to AJ, and CM Punk says, "Whoa, what a load of crap, am I right, everybody? If you were planning to do this all along, where's your ring?" And Bryan just says, "Oh, it's in the back. Don't worry about it." Punk says he wants to talk to AJ later about this, claims that Daniel Bryan is using AJ to curry favor, so she will favor him during the WWE Championship match at Money in the Bank. Which leads us to the main event of the show, which is CM Punk and AJ against Eve and Daniel Bryan. The end of the match happens when Eve is looking for a tag to Daniel Bryan. Bryan drops down from the apron. AJ rolls up Eve for the 1-2-3. Punk goes for the high five. AJ hugs him instead. And Bryan says, "You see that? If that's what I could do for you, imagine what you could do for me," or something along those lines. Punk then grabs the mic and he says, "What I might say might cost me the WWE Championship, but I'm going to level with you, AJ. I'm not going to marry you." There's an audible gasp from the crowd. AJ looks sad. She walks over to Punk and then slaps him in the face. Daniel Bryan is happy. He's laughing. He holds his arms open and he says, "Come home, AJ. Come home." So Daniel Bryan has his arms open. "Come home, AJ." AJ's crying, and she goes for the hug, but then slaps Daniel Bryan too. And I still have this picture saved on my phone because at the time I thought this was the funniest thing ever. Daniel Bryan's eyes are bugged out, and he's just holding his cheek like he was betrayed so viciously that he cannot believe it. AJ then leaves the ring. She's smiling, leading to both our champion and challenger very confused. And then in the go-home show before Money in the Bank, it's pretty much a retread of what happened on Raw, but this time AJ kisses Daniel Bryan, and he's smiling about it. Punk leaves the ring, shaking his head, knowing, well, I'm going to lose my championship now because the ref and my challenger are making out a little bit in the ring. AJ runs over, spins Punk around, and kisses him. She then smiles and then skips to the back. Which leads us to Money in the Bank. And before the show, it is announced that it will be a no disqualification match. Anything goes. Chair shots, tables. This rivalry has become so personal between these two former friends, former travel mates, that it's come to this. A woman who's in love with both of them, determining who becomes WWE Champion, the richest prize in the business, with no rules. I have to tell you, the OC, One Tree Hill, would be so much better if there were more tables and ladders and chairs. That's just my opinion. Just more. We needed more of that in these teen dramas. But anyway, I'm sidetracking here. AJ is taken out early, so she gets helped to the back by the medical team as another ref takes her place. So now Punk and Bryan are having a very good match. Lots of weapon shots, lots of outside brawling. AJ is holding her head. She's coming back to ringside. And she tells the original referee she's okay. She's going to ref the finish of this match. The referee complies. He leaves. She's back in it. Both Punk and Bryan are down at this point. AJ grabs the chair and drops it in the center of the ring. Now it is a race to see who is going to get this chair first. Bryan gets it first, attacks Punk, goes for the pin. Only gets a 2 count. Bryan is not very pleased. This back and forth goes in for a while. And then finally, the table comes out to play. The table is set up. Punk hits Daniel Bryan with a super back suplex off the top rope. He covers. AJ counts to 3. And Punk retains the WWE Championship. But AJ is looking upset because even though she gave Punk the championship, he doesn't love her. And that crushes her a little bit more because he is focused on being and continuing to be the WWE champion, which leaves AJ a little bit heartbroken. The next night, Daniel Bryan proposes to AJ, still claiming to be a jerk for all this time. AJ says yes, and now we have a wedding for Raw 1000. But before the wedding, Daniel Bryan is talking to people in white coats. But they're not groomsmen. They are nurses to the loony bin. It's not really outright said, but that's what it's implied. That he's only marrying AJ so he could get her out of her hair and commit her to an insane asylum. Very progressive is this storyline. But it turns out the swerve is on Daniel Bryan because the proposal that AJ accepted wasn't his marriage proposal, but to a proposal by Vince McMahon to become the general manager of Monday Night Raw. Bryan is obviously furious. He's angry. And that will lead us to AJ actually committing Daniel Bryan and Kane, 2 of her former love interests, to anger management, which will lead to Daniel Bryan and Kane to team up as Team Hell No, and the rest, they say, is history. As CM Punk goes on to defend the WWE Championship later that night against John Cena, and then turns heel by hitting the go to sleep on The Rock, everybody is hunky-dory. So what did I think of this storyline? I thought it was fun. I thought it was a lot of fun. People would like to point on where the women's revolution started and who started it. But to me, the prologue to that, the main source of inspiration to have women be a bigger force in WWE and treated with more respect and seriousness was AJ in this storyline. She not only would open the show, she would also close the show. And that hasn't been done by a female wrestler before at this time. And I thought she played her character to perfection in being the nerdy girl turned into vengeful, crazy ex-girlfriend who will cost the people she loves matches and then be nice to them the next minute. And just being an overall 3-dimensional character. Before, when women were just there to be eye candy, AJ really was the first woman to add multiple dimensions in her character, with depicting a realism that does happen to not only women, just people in general with mental illness, and how something like a breakup so tragic can actually affect a character and affect so many things in their lives and other people's lives. And I think this was a great depiction of that. I thought Daniel Bryan was coming to his own as a character in his own right during this time. Not only was he showing that he could be a great wrestler but he was beginning to become a better promo, a better character actor, a better performer in general, which helped maintain his popularity from the Yes Chants and not just being the Yes Chant guy. Now he's Daniel Bryan, the three-dimensional character. Now he's the evil vegan who will commit his ex-girlfriend to the loony bin in order to get what he wants, which is the WWE Championship. And then you have CM Punk. During this time as WWE Champion, he wasn't treated with much... I'm not sure if respect is the right term. CM Punk's reign at this time was a little bit of an afterthought because the main focus was on John Cena, was on The Rock, because they were still doing their 3-year-long storyline. And Cena was always going to be the main character during that, which meant the WWE Championship and whoever holding it was going to take a back seat until The Rock was ready to come back, and then it would have The Rock versus Cena for the championship. As weird as it is to say, it felt like he was just kind of holding the championship warm until that happened. From December of 2011 to September 2012, CM Punk didn't main event a pay-per-view for the WWE as WWE Champion, which is really bizarre, at least in my eyes. The WWE Championship should be the top billing. It should be the top thing that happens on a WWE pay-per-view. It should be the main thing that's happening on a WWE pay-per-view. But with Cena being the main focus, it really, for me at least, it really drained me of the product at this time and trying to look for more alternatives. Because you just have Cena in the main event multiple times. And his stories that didn't involve the championship, he was in the main event. This show where CM Punk and Daniel Bryan with AJ as the special referee, John Cena was in the main event. The match at No Way Out, John Cena was at the main event. The match at Over the Limit, John Cena was at the main event. But there was no championship at stake. It was more of Cena's getting top billing because he's Cena. And Cena was looked as above the WWE Championship. And I thought, for a storyline this well crafted and developed, I thought that it deserved to have top billing for a pay-per-view. That's just my opinion. If you're the WWE Champion, you should go on last unless there's a major phenomenon of a match like Rock Cena. But right now, I'm going to transition into rejected storyline ideas. So the alternative idea how this storyline would happen would AJ and Daniel Bryan would still have the wedding, but Daniel Bryan would actually commit AJ, and Kevin X's idea was that Bryan was successful in doing this, and AJ would have been committed to the mental institution, and there, AJ would meet one Dean Ambrose at the mental asylum, and they would fall madly in love and bonding over their psychopathic tendencies, and they would wreak havoc on the WWE roster. That's quite a turn to have Dean Ambrose, Jon Moxley as AJ's crazed mental institution boyfriend, and I thought that would have worked well. I would be curious to see how that would develop, as AJ would be committed, find love in a mental institution, get out, and then just beat everybody up. If the Shield wasn't such a phenomenon of an idea as a group, I think that would be a very good call-up for Dean Ambrose. And he would play it off well, because Dean Ambrose can play crazy well. I'm not sure if you knew this. Another idea, like I mentioned before, was Daniel Bryan winning the WWE Championship with AJ by his side and being a very heel duo. According to CM Punk from that infamous podcast interview, was the idea of him having a faction. I assume when The Rock would come, The Rock would have some goons to fight off. And the faction idea was him, Daniel Bryan, Big Show, and Seth Rollins. Punk groaned because him and Bryan should be separate and apart like Shawn and Brett were, which I could see the argument in that. He grown having Big Show as his heater. He didn't have a problem with Big Show, but it's a role that Big Show has played before. And that allegedly started the development of the Shield with Ambrose, Rollins, and Roman Reigns. And the future of WWE is history. After this storyline, that's when another shift has been given, with CM Punk turning to a bad guy, to the villainous side, and Daniel Bryan and Kane slowly but surely turning into good guys. I think everyone turned out well in the end. As of press time, Daniel Bryan is with All Elite Wrestling. Kane is mayor of Knoxville County. AJ Lee, I believe, is a writer for comic books and many other movie and television projects. And CM Punk is still out with injury after the All Out incident. After his match with Jon Moxley, he tore his tricep. So who knows if he's going to come back. But overall, this storyline, how would I rank it? What do I recommend? The main critique I have is that we see so much CM Punk and Daniel Bryan in the ring that we don't get a break from it necessarily. So when it comes to the pay-per-view matches after the Over the Limit match, which I think is the best match those two had in this series and this storyline, as it were, that you kind of get desensitized by them having been in the ring so much together. You kind of see all the moves that they hit with each other before. The expectations then become a little bit commonplace, because then you're expecting, okay, then Punk's going to go for the knee here. Oh, Bryan's going to counter here. And it just kind of, like I said, it desensitizes you to what's going on in the ring, with the storyline being as interesting as it is. Kane was a fun addition. It was a neat way to drag out the storyline a little bit more, with Kane being that big person that both these guys would have to overcome to win or retain the WWE Championship. And AJ Lee was just a lot of fun in the role of the vengeful crazy ex-girlfriend, and I really did enjoy her role a lot, because it showed that women on the show can develop character and hold up a major storyline. And I think that was the prototype of how women would be treated and featured in the WWE in the future. So overall, my recommendation, watch the Daniel Bryan CM Punk Over the Limit match. Watch the segments with AJ Lee, starting from after WrestleMania 28 all the way through, and just seeing her character development shift and change. I think that is one of the best pieces of not just female character development, but male character development in that time, because 2012 was AJ Lee's year. AJ Lee and CM Punk, in my opinion, respectively, that was their year in terms of characterization and in-ring work. That was their year, in my opinion. So anyway, we're just going to wrap it up right here. My name is Richie Mars. Thank you for listening to Wrestling Retold and Relived with Richie Mars. I, of course, am Richie Mars, and I will see you next time on the flip side. Take care.